Good morning. Just a couple of words to kick off with. My Foreign Minister and Defense Minister will be here in a second as well. It's a great privilege to be here in my first NATO summit as President of the Republic of Finland. My first observation is to say that NATO has now doubled its border with Russia. And Russia is the biggest threat to the alliance. We in Finland fully understand the responsibility that we have as a new member state. We are very serious about our defense, have been so ever since World War II. You will see us as a security provider, not a security consumer. We hit all the targets set by the alliance. You will know that we have obligatory military service and 900,000 men and women that have done their service. We have 280,000 that we can mobilize at wartime. We have 62 F-18s, 64 F-35s, land, air, sea missiles, and the biggest artillery in Europe together with Poland. And there's a reason why we have that. We want to protect ourselves and we want to protect the alliance. As far as the summit is concerned, we're very happy with the final declaration and the outcome that we will see, especially on two accounts. One is defense and deterrence. We are seeing now, I would argue, the rebirth of NATO 3.0, a real Zeitenwende for the alliance, where we're putting our mouth where our money is, and we're showing that our operative capacity, our planning capacity, and in general our capacity is right there. And secondly, we are extremely happy about the language that we're getting in supporting Ukraine. It is, of course, for us, the most important conflict close to our border, and the support that we are giving Ukraine in terms of making it in the future into a NATO member, in terms of financial and military assistance, and in terms of coordinating assistance is extremely important. I think it's very important to give a message to the Kremlin from here that Ukraine's path and bridge towards NATO membership is now irreversible. And in that sense, I'm happy to be here celebrating the 75th anniversary of the strongest military alliance in the history of the world. With these words, I'm happy to take my Foreign Minister, Defense Minister, and then answer questions.
Just a quick word, sir.
Yeah.
If Mr. Putin isn't stopped in Ukraine, do you fear that the Baltic Sea is the next target? I know the Baltic nations are very concerned about the presence of Russia on their borders.
We don't fear anything. We plan for everything. That means that we look at different types of scenarios. But to be honest, I think the deterrence that we have right now, Finland, Sweden, Norway, all of us being part of the alliance, I don't think it makes any sense for Russia to make any kind of a move towards that direction. The Baltic Sea is now a NATO lake. With an extremely strong defense capacity. I mentioned Poland with the biggest artillery together with Finland. I mentioned the Zeitenwende that Germany has done in its defense. And if you look at the capacity of Finland on land, capacity of Sweden and in the air and sea, and the capacity of Norway in general, I don't see the direction of Putin going towards the Baltic Sea at all. What we need to do now, and I follow the words of Secretary General Stoltenberg, is that the more we support Ukraine now, the sooner we can end the war. Coming eastbound or westbound from the Russian perspective is not a good idea.
With so many leaders domestically doing within the alliance, how is it possible to send a strong signal?
Well, I disagree with your basic premise. We've just had Keir Starmer elected as the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. I just spent a good hour with 15 senators, including also Chancellor Scholz, Prime Minister Starmer, Prime Minister Kristersson, and actually Jens Stoltenberg discussing the security situation in Europe. I have never seen the European Union or NATO as unified or as strong as we have been ever since Russia attacked Ukraine. Remember that there's a long history of this, and that history began in 2008 with Russia attacking Georgia. It continued with the annexation of the Crimean Peninsula in 2014, and then a full-blown war in 2022. I think we reacted too late, but right now we're very strong and very unified, so I'm not worried that democracy would be throwing bad results at us. We're coping with it.
The United States, the EU is unified, but
Well, I'm avidly pro-American. I've done my undergraduate work at Furman University in Greenville, South Carolina in the end of the 1980s and early 1990s. So if there's one thing that I'm concerned about with the United States is the polarization of the political climate. It is, I have to admit, very toxic. But when I meet 15 senators, as I just did at the Senate, there is strong bipartisan support for Ukraine and also for NATO. And let me add that no matter who is elected as President of the United States, Joe Biden or Donald Trump, the United States will remain a superpower. And in order for the United States to remain a superpower and in the driver's seat in its pivoting towards China, it needs allies. And the strongest allies actually come from Europe. We are a value-based alliance, 32 members in the alliance based on democracy. The United States has roughly 60 allies out of 200 countries in the world. So any idea that the United States would be turning its back against Europe, I simply don't buy that. I think, as far as I understand, the text is in what they call and I'm learning this because this is my first summit, in a NAC silent procedure. So basically it is looking quite good. I've read the conclusions through a couple of times and I'm very pleased with the outcome from the perspective of the alliance, but also from the perspective of a new member state like Finland. En lue, vaan luen sitä sillä tavalla, että NATO eli liittolaiset tulevat antamaan vahvan tuen Ukrainalle 3 kautta, josta ensimmäinen on rahallinen ja materiaalinen tuki, toinen on koordinaatio- ja missiotuki ja 3. on sitten tuki, eräänlainen silta kohti NATO-jäsenyyttä. I hope all of you agree. I am quite convinced that that type of language, in other words, words such as irreversible and bridge, will be found in the summit declaration. Why is this important? Because the only thing that Putin and Russia understands is power. And Putin and Russia need to understand that what they expected to do, the exact reverse happened. They wanted to Russify Ukraine, it became European. They wanted to prevent Ukraine's EU membership, they will become members of the European Union. They wanted to prevent the enlargement of NATO. Ukraine will become a NATO member. Finland and Sweden became NATO members as well. No, edelleen niin lähtökohta on se, että kun nyt tapasin 15 senaattoria, myös ulkoministeri ja puolustusministeri ovat tavanneet kollegoitaan, niin olemme hyvin vakuuttuneita siitä, että riippumatta kuka valitaan Yhdysvaltain presidentiksi, niin Yhdysvaltain tuki Ukrainalle ja NATOlle jatkuu. Miksi? Koska se on Yhdysvaltain intressissä. Eilen keskustelin noin 10-15 minuuttia presidentti Bidenin kanssa, satuimme itse asiassa samaan jonoon ja samaan lämpiöön. Ja oikein hyvä keskustelu, analysoimme vähän maailmanpoliittista tilannetta ja hän kertoi näkemyksiään Suomesta, jotka olivat hyvinkin myönteisiä ja rakentavia. Hän puhui siitä, että Naton raja Venäjän kanssa on kaksinkertaistunut. Hän puhui siitä, miten vahva Suomen puolustus on ja hänen omista Suomen vierailuista. Myös taisimme puhua Vancouverin olympialaisista vuonna 2010, jolloin olimme katsomassa mäkihyppyä.
Tässä kokouksessa ei saada konsensusta siitä, että Ukrainasta tulee Naton jäsen. Siis Ukraina ei saa tässä kokouksessa kutsua. Olisiko Suomi ollut valmis kutsumaan jo tässä kokouksessa Ukrainan Nato-jäseneksi ja mitkä maat tämän konsensuksen estivät?
No, me olemme nuori, uusi jäsenmaa, eli me emme lähde mestaroimaan tai neuvomaan muita tässä. Me olemme valtavirrassa ja lähdimme pitkälti siitä, että toivoimme sanamuotoja, jotka vievät ja edistävät Ukrainan NATO-jäsenyyttä enemmän kuin Vilnan huippukokouksen sanamuodot. Ja Tietysti muutamat maat olivat sitä mieltä, että pitää olla hyvin varovainen estämisen suuntaan, mutta kyllä mun mielestä se viesti tällä hetkellä on hirveän selkeä, eli Ukrainasta tulee NATO-jäsen. Ei nyt, mutta jossain vaiheessa. No varmaan suuri viesti tulee tämän deklaraation kautta ja se, että liittokunta seisoo vahvasti Ukrainan takana sekä taloudellisen että aseellisen tuen näkökulmasta, koordinoinnin näkökulmasta ja sitten loppupelissä myös siitä näkökulmasta, että Ukrainalle rakennetaan silta kohti NATO-jäsenyyttä. We'll take the last question in Finnish. Anteeksi? En ole vielä tuota uutista nähnyt tänä aamuna, joten en sitä sen enempää kommentoi. All right, thank you very much.